Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the various time zones around the world. It's another beautiful day here in the Twin Island Paradise of St. Kitts Nevis. I call it my double slice of paradise. I want to say good morning to all you folks, your listeners, your viewers, for logging on to another episode of Voices. Starting right about now, it's 10:59. My name is Socrates, host of today's program, and we have with us in the studio this morning Mr. David Pell. He was here on last Wednesday, and the demand for him to return to share what he shared with us last week was very strong, so he's back with us. But we will get into all of that and more after we pay kudos to our very kind sponsors, without whom this show would not be possible. See you on the other side.
50,000?
$50,000? Win big with TDC. Win up to $50,000 cash in the TDC Mega Rewards Mega Raffle. To enter, you must be a Mega Rewards member or sign up to TDC Mega Rewards Loyalty Program. Shop at our TDC retail stores or online at shoptdcgroup.com to receive one entry for every $250 spent. Draws take place from July to November. Win $10,000 every month with your entry rolled over so you can win even more.
Yes, this is 50.
Terms and conditions apply.
Magnum, my brand. Everybody put your Magnum in the air now. From you a drink Magnum, make me see. Take charge of things now your place now. From the river to the beach to the street. Hot Magnum when me have in a me hand there. He are a sipper, she tell me sweet. Look for me watch for your quick time check. Yeah. Right now a Magnum for your beat. Enjoy yourself every day of the week with a Magnum. My life I forget sweeter. Must be 18 years and older to drink. Drink responsibly.
Are you ready for the summer? Need a plan like no other. Stay connected when you're on the go.
Sign up for internet and get 1 month free, plus a chance to pay $0 for the rest of the year. Plus, get a chance to win free data, gas vouchers, $500 cash weekly, grocery vouchers, Fed tickets, and more.
Switch over to Flow.
So you're back. We are locked and loaded for another presentation of Voices. It's just about 1 minute past 11 o'clock, and we're here until roughly 1:30. We have lots of information to unload. What I would ask of the calling public, give us the first two segment to present information, and then we'll open the lines and engage Mr. Pell in a discussion. I want to say good morning to the normal fan base, Rosemary, Petra, Jennifer, Bag of Sugar, Amber over there. Bridges, Mr. Manish, the folks who let me know that they're listening and correct me when there's a need to. And of course, we have the ambassador, Chris Collins, up there in Sheffield. What is he the ambassador of? Food? We're going to find out at some point. Good morning, Chris Collins. Anyway, Mr. Pell, welcome once again to the studios and airways of WIN FM. We have a very large fan base, so we heard around the world. And I dare say many persons were very impressed with your presentation last week, so we're here to further update and enlighten. So, the mic, as they would say, is all yours.
Greetings, everyone. Peace to all of you. And like I said, peace in the name of Jesus Christ. That's the peace that is actually the ultimate peace. So I just want to say greetings to all of you. And last week we touched on the political history of St. Kitts and Nevis. But what a lot of persons are going to realize is that the economic history advancement of St. Kitts and Nevis actually also took turn with the political system, the shifts. So last week we went from, we started about, you could take it back to 1802, and if you want, for 1882, when actually certain things were put in place when it comes to governance from a local perspective. Okay. Up to 1967, and then right down to independence, because a lot of persons didn't realize before independence it was just St. Kitts and Nevis and not St. Kitts, Nevis, and Anguilla.
Even though the bank national bank carried the same name, St. Kitts and Nevis National Bank?
Yeah, the bank remained the same. Because the name hasn't changed. Because it's a business establishment, so maybe shareholders might change, but the name, they retain the name.
Okay.
Okay, so for that purpose, I just want to go back again even further to let us see that St. Kitts and Nevis, and in matter of fact, I get this, most of this information is from website. So anybody could type
It's
in
out
that.
there.
Right. Economic development of advancement of St. Kitts and Nevis from 1802, 1882, come right up and they have it listed there. And even what I'm going to bring here is to let us see how first they speak to St. Kitts, because like I mentioned before, St. Kitts, Nevis, and Anguilla were not always one entity. So you find out that the soil in St. Kitts was very rich. Now I could go way back to bring into perspective so the people to see where we came from to where we are and where we want to go. So way back when Columbus came here, when it was discovered, this was since back in 1493.
Quote unquote. Discovered.
But according to the, okay.
Quote unquote.
I got you. But according to the information on the net, is that, and as we all know, 1493, St. Kitts was settled by Europeans, right? Or discovered by Christopher Columbus, but not until 1623, the first English settlers came here. The Europeans, right? The Europeans came and settled St. Kitts and Nevis.
That is correct.
Right. So, let us bring it into perspective. Nevis was actually colonized in 1620 by English persons from St. Kitts.
Well, it was from here that they branched off to most of the neighboring islands.
Right.
The French also did the same. That is why we would dub the mother colony because we were the first to be colonized. And from here, they branch off to, those other islands.
And then the plantation system as we know it actually was St. Kitts was the launching pad, if you want to speak, for that. One, because of the fertile soil, but because they experiment with it and they realize how the sugar and all these things could come about. So, I'm just into,
Perspective, going back to you.
Bring it there. So that we could understand. Don't let us take things for granted. Remember, I'm talking about St. Kitts and Nevis as a country, politically, how we develop, how we advance, and now I'm talking about economically, but the economic system changed with the politics of the day.
Okay.
Then we have to remember also the two islands, along with some more, sometime in the future, Anguilla came into the experience. And this administration was actually, during the colonial time and beginning in 1671. So you see, I'm going way back, 1671, so we could have an idea. St. Kitts and Nevis and Anguilla joined with Antigua and Barbuda and Rwanda. Some person may not know that. We were administered from those. Then Montserrat, as a part of the Leeward Island, Caribbean Islands government under a British governor.
Headquartered?
In Antigua.
In Antigua,
Right.
yeah.
This arrangement endured until 1806. So you see how I'm going back to let people get this perspective that we were not always like this. And that is how Paul Southwell, who was not from, or birth in St. Kitts, came. So just to put it in perspective. When the split came, the government, when I say the split, I'm talking about, now I'm coming a bit forward. Like I said, we spoke about this last week. So when the split came with Anguilla. You find out that we had St. Kitts Nevis. And therefore, we had a somewhat united stuff within the Leeward Islands with all of this going on. And then we had, at the end of it all, okay, let me go back a bit. So let me go back a bit. I want to go back a bit because I think I missed something. I want people to understand something clearly. Once upon a time, St. Kitts, Nevis, and Anguilla and the British Virgin Islands were one unit as well. You remember when a lot of people used to go to the British Virgin Islands?
Yep.
It's because of that. They were one. So even though they were there and some people, but we didn't want any visa support, but that's because of the same reasons.
Okay.
Dominica also came into the grouping. Then we had a presidency within the Leeward Islands Federation in 1882. I started as a housekeeper until 1956. I was a person to realize that. This is just some of the history.
Where was this? Which island? You mentioned the presidency.
Right. That's when Dominica came in. So it was established under presidency because remember it come from governor. Like I said, we went through it last week with some of the things how the leadership changed. And I mentioned about one time about the presidency because I remember the different changes. Governor, chief minister, and so forth. But he had a presidency as well. Okay, and it was for the group of islands.
Okay.
Right, for the group, not just St. Kitts and Nevis, just for
I got
the group,
you.
the
I
group
got
of
you.
islands, the Leeward Islands.
For the grouping.
Right. When these issues affect, let's say they fail, a lot of this stuff failed from the West, from the presidency come down to the Leeward Islands, the
Federation.
Federation, all these things have failed. But even during that, we were still one of the countries with rich soil. Rich soil. And therefore, the economic development of St. Kitts and Nevis was changing as different shifts from one leadership to the next. The economic shift changed, but St. Kitts maintained that leadership when it comes to fertile soil and agriculture. That's why the sugar industry lasted so long here because of the soil.
Okay.
So I'm coming down to the thing where we could realize the sugar was so strong, but it was failing as well because of the price at the world market.
I'm with you.
But still, it was still one of the major foreign owner money-generating thing for the country. And therefore, they tried to hold it because, remember, we were not diversified as yet. None of this thing came into being until later. And we could remember when the government get all the sugar factory and everything, when they get it into being.
Amalgamated.
Right. So, with that said, it's just to let persons realize sugar was king. But coming into the 1980s, when things changed, government changed, the People's Action Movement at that time, their main focus was actually diversifying the economy. And all this is on the online to make sure that coming into independence, they realized there had to be a change because the sugar industry was going down. And they went into light manufacturing. And they went into, let's say, different crops. Don't know if you remember that. But also, during that time, we still had an economy that was down low. So,
the light manufacturing was that when former Premier Southwell was in charge of, he was the chief minister then, because remember things like Curtis Mattis and those light manufacturing with his shoes at one point. Clothing, we did clothing, but it was really the shoe. There was one called Dan Dan's. I forgot the name of the shoe factory. But then Curtis Matthews was one that made television. So that was during, I think, what Paul Southwell was the chief minister that came into play. All right.
So,
not yet diversified, but creating work for the population, apart from the agricultural-based jobs that was most in demand.
So you realize if you realize what happened here, is that actually from the 1980s when government changed. That is when...
You're talking about the major transformations.
Right. That is when now the economy started to change. So I want people to realize is that, yes, change is going to come at a certain time, but before that, we were mostly based on sugar. The exact diversification of the sugar industry came when Dr. Kennedy Simmons and Simeon Daniel and all those others came into being, when we started to go into tourism. That was another experiment that we wanted.
From a monoculture, tourism was introduced as it was the second industry then, but became the primary.
So you realize it's tourism and manufacture the first experimented with and they brought in. The development was slow as the economic alternatives in the 1980s because, we're just coming out of that. So persons were still trying to feel themselves around the whole thing. But we're going to realize also some persons were reluctant into move away from the sugar because they feel as if they were not really ready for
next
tourism
level
and those kind of things.
Next level, yeah.
What played an important role was education. So you realize what has happened here. From that short period of time, Dr. Kennedy Simmons and his team implemented a lot of things to get us moving to be where we are today. They started the experiment with tourism, manufacturing, but something was lacking, getting persons up to speed in preparing themselves to work in other areas. So education played a very important role of that.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember all the amount of schools and everything that started to pop
I
up
recall
in
the
place.
first one that was built as you enter at the end of Newton Ground. Going to St. Paul's, that was the first school built.
Right. And if you really look at it as well, that is when we had a diversification in agriculture. Because the People's Action Movement and their team then were thinking of how they can get our local people working. And I don't know if you remember, we had certain period of time we had pineapple farming,
I recall
sweet
those.
potato, all these things, and even some person, we had a lot of breadfruit trees.
Weren't these some of these crops attempted before?
Yes, but
Because I recall there were some lands that was more or less commandeered by the then government for, well, they wanted to plant sugar, but they were giving out to other crops, peanuts, potato, blah, 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 to just the small farmers. So I don't think there was the first one, but in terms of the diversification at that level and scale, I see where you're coming from.
yes, and to make it, let's say, like an economic livelihood for persons, put it that way. So make it into a business. Because now getting persons from out of the sugar, they have to get something to do. So that is where the diversification of the agriculture section came in, and also the diversification of the economic
The
system
growth
St.
of the
Genevieve.
Small Business
For the-
Association.
I was just going to come to that as well, because out of that, with the agriculture, different types of businesses came in.
I believe the giving back of the Provident Fund and the removal of personal income tax really generated that investment. I recall there was a time that civil servants like police officers couldn't have a second job,
Yes.
and those legislation was somewhat relaxed. So people were able to invest. I know a lot of police officers bought buses, got into transportation. Prior to that, it could not happen.
Yes.
They had to hide behind some fund to do so. So people were able to invest. And there's a whole thing about taxes. When you relax taxation, people have that money to reinvest in the economy. And that was very much evidence in 1980, 83 going forward.
Yes. And that is why, because remember, the sugar industry was failing for a while.
You know?
But you had to maintain it because you had to maintain
Jobs.
employment. And therefore, in the 1980s, the government in the 1980s was actually the People's Action Movement, government and NRP.
That's correct.
So what they were doing is to get persons now go into tourism, light manufacturing, and at the same time scaling down the sugar industry, because, it was not just in St. Kitts and Nevis the sugar industry was failing, but globally the prices went down.
One of the measures they took in terms of tourism, they granted to taxi drivers a brand new vehicle, and you only had to pay $1,000 for duties at the port. A brand new vehicle. I would say at the time it was valued around, say, $35,000, going back some 30-something years ago. So a brand new vehicle, you only had to pay $1,000. And there were concessions given to like small hoteliers and guest houses, because if you want to introduce tourism as a second industry, you had to put that infrastructure in place. You recall what happened when we were approaching independence in 1983, and the main hotel was set afire. They burned, whoever there was burned that hotel. And so overnight, we had to put a hotel in place because you're inviting the world to come and be part of an independence celebration, and the main hotel was burnt down. So in the same light, if you want to introduce tourism as a second industry, transitioning from sugar, you had to have the right quality of vehicles, hotel rooms, etc. So that investment in terms of concessions given to those in that service industry was very, very pivotal to creating that welcoming environment where we were happy to say we can take guests around in a car that's not a used, beat-up car from St. Martin or from St. Thomas, where your seat was some blocks and some towels. So that transition cannot be overlooked.
Right, but not only that, in the same 1980s, during that period, there was a boom in construction. I don't know if you remember that. Not only the booming, and therefore, if you have a boom in construction, what is happening?
Employment.
The economy is driving. The economy is going good. Also, employment. But not only employment, what you had created, a lot of small
Businesses. The
during that
SBA, the
period.
Small Business Association, came out of nowhere
Right.
and blossomed very well. I recall Zwet Laws being one of the presidents.
So what I'm trying to get our people to understand is that things were not always the way that you see we have it today, but a foundation was laid back then. However, we have to appreciate the persons who actually get it started, because a lot of persons today now have small businesses because of what was
The foundation
implemented
that was
then.
laid, yes.
And therefore, you move away from, let's say, sugar from being the major, and even government from being a major employer as well, to have other individual persons and a group of persons starting businesses. And this is where we are today. And when you have that happening, what you have happen? The GDP is going to increase.
Definitely.
And therefore, during the 1980s, coming up to 1985, what St. Kitts and Nevis was double as one time?
The number one in economic growth throughout Latin America, and I forget the exact thing, but we were the number one in economic growth throughout the region of Latin America. And also the world freest nation.
But of course. And you realize during that period, let's say 1985, when all these things happened and the GDP keep going up percentage, it had a certain period of time when it went down, but not by a percentage or so, but it came back up. That proves something that St. Kitts and Nevis economically is doing well and doing strong. But it didn't came overnight, but the education of the people was important during that time.
As you mentioned, education. There was an incident of a young girl who got impregnated while in school, and the practice prior to Dr. Simmons' administration is that they went home from school.
Yeah.
And in this particular case, he said no. After she have a child, she goes back to school because that's when she most need her education. Prior to that, they figured that if you got pregnant in school, you would not really contaminate, you will be a bad influence on the other girls. So they sent you out of school. Dr. Simmons said no. That is the time that you need your education most. And that child was be able to go back to school.
Yes, and today we have now, it continues, because young persons, especially, let me put it this way, young females now are allowed to go back to school after giving birth.
There you
And
go.
that's a good thing, at least the person is,
Because you mentioned education.
But of course,
And the point was made, that's when she most need her education.
because missing out on education, that might be a prime minister we lost,
Yeah.
a governor general, a good lawyer, a good preacher or something, a good teacher.
And that would better equip her to look after her child.
Now, during the same 1980s, 1983 coming up there, we also had the introduction of persons getting into wholesale business, retail business, the telecommunication, as you mentioned before. You remember before time how it used to be, but during that
There was
period,
maybe a telephone in a village, or if you got sick during the night and you couldn't wake a rich neighbor to call for assistance, it wasn't happening. From that year, of 1988 to 2005, people were walking around with cell phones in their hands. How did it happen? From not having a telephone in a village, there was a telephone thing in Challengers, along the main way, etc., etc. But from that era to 15 years after, you're walking around with cell phones in your hand, and you're told, well, we can give you better than that. How did that come about? That information, that education is so sadly missing.
Right, now look here as well. Not only we had a boom in the telecommunication, but financial services. Okay, financial services. Remember all these things that popped up. And you know what? That period of time, those new industries actually accounted for about 60% of our GDP.
6%.
67%.
Okay.
About 60%.
I'll accept the stats. I saw the growth, but I don't have any empirical information. You have it there.
And all
in
this
print.
information, right? All this information is online, so I'm not giving you anything that I just made up. But I'm just bringing it to light for our people to understand. We should treasure what we have and who contributed to what we have. Even you yourself contributed to the taxi industry. So we should, appreciate this, and we should appreciate our people for what they're doing for our country. And let me put it this way. From the first prime minister to the one we have now, every single one of them would have contributed.
Made
to
the
our
contribution,
country.
yes.
Okay? So therefore, we should recognize the persons. If you want to recognize
All.
some and miss out something is wrong, you have to recognize every single one of them. Also with our sport persons, also our police officers. Because there are some police officers who went beyond duty to do certain things. But, sometimes it's not recognized.
Police sometimes is not very popular.
But it is very important for us to have them. Because
That's
without
security.
them,
If you don't have the security in the
we
country,
have a problem.
a major
And
problem.
During that time as well, that is why I bring up with the police. During that time, there was also not a lot of training for our police officers, the way they did things, the way they even enrolled the police officers. Because once upon a time, you had to be a certain height, your chest had to be a certain width
Yes.
to get in the police force. Education.
They had to
was
have the stature which commanded that respect.
so all like you would have been able to get into the force very easy. And Trent over there. Right?
Oh, yes.
Because at that time, education wasn't necessarily
Just your physical.
physical. But today things would have changed, and therefore it is all because of the new, if you want to say, the change that took place in the government, changed a lot of things. That is why we're experiencing some things still. Because the foundation that was laid back then, we are benefiting from it
Today.
now.
You mentioned finance and you mentioned the police. We're going to take a break now. When we return, I would like you to speak, if you can, briefly on the police credit union. Major impact, right? So, Mr. Sergeant, take us downtown, and we come back. We talk about all that development.
Okay.
Rams the good food people, always there to serve you. Rams the good food people, locations right near you. Rams the good food people, in-store specials for you. Rams the good food people, Rams. When you need better service, Rams is always here. Better value, better prices, Rams is always here. Rewarding your loyalty, Rams is always here. We are community, we are family. We are family. Rams for you and me. We are community. Rams for you and me. Are you ready for the summer? Need a plan like no other. Stay connected when you're on the go.
Sign up for internet and get 1 month free, plus a chance to pay $0 for the rest of the year. Plus, get a chance to win free data, gas vouchers, $500 cash weekly, grocery vouchers, Fed tickets, and more.
Switch over to Flow.
It's TDC for me, TDC for we. Neighbor, partner, your family. The best is yet to come, believe me. Moving forward, moving with. Hey, TDC serve the nation with the best customer experience. TDC, you are the one for we. Happy anniversary. Together we succeed, building on strong community, pressing onward to our destiny. One love, one family. Together we succeed. Let the whole world see. Yes, this is 50.
WINN is 98.9. 98.9 is Win FM.
And we're back with the program. Just want to say good morning to Savannah, Monifa, and Rosemary up there, traveling to take care of business. Ladies, have yourself a most wonderful one. Mr. Pell, we're
Sir.
back with you. You are now the man of our man of the match, so to speak. And I kind of interrupted you a while ago to speak about the formation of the police credit union when it was formed and how it impacts today, because, as you mentioned, it's now competing with the banks.
Yes, the police corporate credit union was formed during the same 1980s period.
Okay?
And they had some, I don't want to call names because some of the person would have passed and I wouldn't be able to get everyone, but I just want to say,
Okay.
during that time we had some police officers who were looking at the interests of the police officers. And the good thing about it, they had the ear of the government who recognized police need to be looked after as well, and they give the go-ahead for such.
Fundamental.
Right, and you know, it was like everything, every new thing, just like even with transitioning from sugar to other industries, there were a bit of resistance from the members. But it's only years after, even to now, some persons are seeing the actual benefit of it. And even now, some persons who are still alive and would have realized the transition from the agriculture and so forth are seeing the benefit of what Dr. Kennedy Simmons and Simeon Daniel and the team were actually
The
doing
vision.
and would have done for our country. But like I mentioned, what could even be better? Because I think during back that time, I think you might have mentioned about even a bridge. And I
Yes,
think,
he was nicknamed rather derogatively the bridge man.
right. But you see, and I,
Because he wanted to build a bridge connecting St. Kitts and Nevis. And I learned some years after that the late Sir Dwight Venner had the same intent. I learned that from when his secretary was making a presentation when they were designating that section of the building to him. She mentioned that he would have approached the government, the then government, to build a bridge. But that's where Dr. Simmons was named the bridge man,
and what we have
after being called the highwayman.
and that is why we have the Southeast Peninsula, because to have the bridge from St. Kitts and Nevis, you would have to reach over
The highway
closest
first.
So, because if we had the bridge, even though now we have the ferries, but the bridge, you know, the economic benefit from that will be so much. So I hope we will get that bridge
I sang about it,
sometime, because it will increase the economic development of St. Kitts and Nevis so
Not
much.
only that, no man can say to his wife or his girlfriend in Nevis, well, I couldn't come over because the ferry. I missed the ferry. You got a problem?
But of course. And you know what? Having a bridge could also create employment.
Big time.
It will create employment, but you know what? Along or around the base of, or the end of each bridge.
A
you
revenue
will have-
stream, a toll.
But not only that, some form of business could go there. I mean, you've been to the US and some of these things, right? By the base here, a fast food place.
I'm seeing the
Yeah, but-
toll on the various sides of vehicles. Say, example, for a car, you may charge $5. For a larger vehicle based on the tonnage, for the mega trucks who take in large, you charge $20.25 at each end. So if you're leaving Nevis, you pay the toll over there. That revenue stays on Nevis. If you're leaving from St. Kitts End, are we there? Seem to have a dropout in the thing. We seem to be experiencing some technical
Hello?
problems.
You could hear me?
There's no audio. Okay, we're back.
Okay.
Yeah, I was saying thank you for that, sir. If you're living from the St. Kitts end, whatever you pay at this end stays on St. Kitts. So you're creating revenues for both ends.
Right. So you see the thinking of Sir Kennedy and his team then.
Visionary.
And you see we are still benefit. It doesn't matter. 20 years after departure, we were still benefited. But it is the job of the government, whoever party from the government then, is to continue,
Continuity.
because the country continues and people continue. And therefore, I am proud and happy to be a national of St. Kitts and Nevis. And because even then we were dubbed, but we are still a prosperous country. Economically, so we might be the smallest in the Western Hemisphere in population and size, but our GDP, our financial standing,
We are
our
punching above our
education,
weight.
we are just good, and it's because of the foundation.
The foundation that was laid, we
and-
continue to punch above our weight.
But of course, and the persons who are benefited, whether they be for one political party or next, they get into power and they try to continue their best. But at the same time, it's our country. But with all that said, I know Dr. Kennedy Simmons and his team were the ones who actually laid this foundation and started it. And recognition must be given, because I want our young persons to understand what we have now. It was not always there. We can mention communication, and you mentioned before, in such a short period of time, the leaps that was made. And remember, even maybe 5 years ago, if I want to make sure my memory is right, we didn't have no dial-up here, right?
Dial up?
For the internet.
I'm not sure, but I
mean-
know back in the day we laid fiber optic cables
Okay,
that
let me-
connected us instantaneously with the world.
Let me go back to where I know. Let's say back in 2010, we had no dial-up here. That I could remember that. But in some of the bigger countries, like in Canada and so on, they had dial-up. So what I'm saying, we were advanced in technology compared to some of the big countries. We're small. And that is why today, Dr. Kennedy Simmons and his team, his financial team, and thanks to our business community, because without them and investors, without those persons, we couldn't have reached where we are. Because our country is now on a path, in a position where we are, from a UN point of view, we are in the same position in a development way as the United States of America.
So we no longer qualify for concessionary loans because we are too economically advanced.
And it's a good thing, but it's still
It's
a
a
bad
good thing,
thing.
yes.
Because we're small, and it's all because of Dr. Kennedy Simmons and his team. And I personally want to say thanks, because those persons then were thinking so ahead. And we are so much ahead of some of the other countries that, what can I say? But thank you, God, for these persons. And thank you not only for our political leaders, but for our business leaders and our investors, our teachers.
We are the Michael Kings.
You understand?
Those guys who were like financial giants investing. I mean, like he was like, he was a CEO at TDC?
Yes.
I mean,
Chairman,
he was a chairman.
Yes.
And the transformative measure that they brought, I mean, we just watched that local company grow into what it became today.
Yes, and also our police commissioners, because even now, our police force have been recognized as being, if you want to say, one of the best when it comes to human rights, respecting human rights, and not using force and so forth to get certain things done. So, even though we might look to say now that things are down, but we have to also remember, my listening audience, before that time, there was also certain things that were used by the security forces to put fear in our people. And that was changed.
And
that was changed after 1980. So there's a lot of things our people do not recognize that would have done.
We had the military on the ferry service, and that didn't go too well with the visions. So that was, they were removed as one of the measure of changing the government.
Mm-hmm. And so it's just to let persons understand that is this simple little change. Even we may not look at the police as having a vital role to play in the economic development and advancement of St. Kitts and Nevis, but they did. Because if you have crime running wild, we have a problem. And our police officers and our justice system worked for our people. And therefore, the investors were comfortable to come and invest. And because what happened, the government at the day, yes, they would have to have some oversight, but the police, the person who were in charge, the police were allowed to be police and do what they're supposed to do.
Okay, without interference from the top brass, so to speak.
Right, and therefore that also encouraged a bit of comfort for the persons who want to invest. And by having that atmosphere, we had these development that we were talking about today. And that, according to the website and the information they put there, could prove that it is not just politics that plays in the development of the country, but also the law enforcement, the justice system. You have to have local investors, and that avenue was created. You also have to have the education system. And it continued, where we had even free meals, free transport for persons to go to school. I was amazed one time when I was talking to some persons that their country, and they were talking about OECS country, had to pay, they had no school bus. Mm-hmm. But when I was going to high school, we had school bus to take us to school.
Even that, and I can speak because I was down front and center to see all these changes, when Dr. Simmons said he's going to remove personal income tax. In the same breath, he promised to introduce the school meals program. And I called neighbor and said, you can't do that. How do you run a country by removing personal income tax and still provide school meals for the primary schools? And it was done. It was politicized because it was a program you had to take in stages. And so they started in Bastia, started going west or east, etc. It took a while for them to get to a certain village. And it was pointed out, they ain't going to get X amount of people. This is because it's a labor, and it was wrong. Eventually, as we sit today, all of the primary schools able to get, but you had to phase in the program. Mm-hmm. But the fact is, it was promised, it was done. At the same time, when you removed personal income tax, so people had more of their own money to reinvest.
But of course. And then also, unemployment was very low.
Dropped.
Very low, even though a lot of persons were not sure of what this new thing is coming in with. But what happened? People still accept the training, accept the education, and went into, and therefore our country prospered. And I must say, a lot of, let's say, I could only speak for my village and constituency 7, because if you really look at it good, there are certain areas where you have almost everybody go to work, and some you will find some persons just hanging around. But
The self-unemployed.
right. But in the I don't know what it is, but in the eastern side, check it out, good you see. In the eastern side of the country, you'll find that area is very industrious. A lot of persons always go to work. You'll meet one or two persons, but the majority of the persons are out to work. And it's those persons, the hard-working people of St. Kitts and Nevis, who actually build our economy. Because without employees, we have a problem.
But look at this aspect of it. In order to lay all those fiber optic cables for your telephone communication system, you had to dig up the road. That's employment. I recall people were criticizing, look how they're digging up the road, we're planting television cables to provide you television service. It had to be done. And people criticized it, but it created that level of employment.
Yes. And I don't know if you recall as well, not only we had those employment on the road, but you remember the banking? A lot of our local people went into banking, you remember that?
Yep.
A lot of our local persons went to the banking, and those are some of the changes that we have to understand that took place. And also it created the situation, well, let's say for the central bank. The reason for it being here, I'm not sure, but I want to believe it had to do something with the safety
Stability
of St. Kitts and Nevis. That is why we have it here. And so it was a lot of contribution, and there's a lot of things that took place to where we are today. And we have to realize that our country is a country that has opportunity. It has the ability for persons to create and generate wealth, and it has been doing so for a number of persons over the years.
I have a contribution from someone in the public, but I can't listen to right now. So during the next break, I'll listen because I figured I want to contribute to this program. I'm very shortly going to open up the lines so Mr. Pell can be engaged by the public. In the meantime, the numbers are 662-0989, 466-0989, 762-0989, and the overseas call, they are 718-285-6948 from Florida. We got 305-921-4619. Okay? So after the next break, we're going to open the lines for the public so you can engage Mr. Pell. And sir, I'll listen to what you sent me in that interim. So Mr. Pell, got the next 5 minutes before we take a break. Well, the next 4 minutes before we go to the next station break. So,
yes, sir. Also, we had improvement in foreign trade. I'm not going too in-depth in them. I'm just giving a brief so people could understand our country. Person's going to call in. I have the information here, so I will answer from them. Foreign trade and balance of payments. But during that period, our foreign trade improved. We were exporting. We also had other new markets where we import things from. So you see the change and came in different stages. And of course, over the years as well, when government would have changed, you might have different places where they get things from or where they sell things from. But what I'm saying is that where it all began.
The establishment, where we established the
where
connections.
It all began. And therefore, we had some partners who we used to trade with traditionally. Like in the 80s, we say we had like the United States, we had Britain, we had CARICOM, had existed in Canada for a while.
What do we trade with them?
We trade mostly agricultural products and so forth. And we had like tobacco, we had mostly sugar, especially when it comes to the UK. It was our sugar.
That was our main source market.
Right.
But not source, that's our main market that we exported to.
Right. And the others were like small agricultural products, and they have we used to do a shoe and those kind of things. We had those kind of things going on.
Okay, yes, from the industrial
yes.
park.
Yeah, remember we had what the shoe name was again? I forgot what the name of the shoe was. I think
It escapes me, but I remember that.
Maybe we manufacture shoe here.
Yes.
A lot of our young persons don't realize, and it was
And
leather.
leather.
We used to export
Gen
leather. Yes, leather shoe and leather products.
And a lot of electronic components.
Right.
To the U.S. aerospace program.
Right. Cajola, Reed,
Electrofab,
all those places, manufacturing. And all those came up in the 1980s. And we used to manufacture those and send them to mainly the US and a lot of other countries, especially military hardware. Even some of the lights that we have here, we had a company here, I think it's Gyro, one of those.
Gyro.
Make those things, and they came back here as switches for us, and they go all over the world. So,
but look at this too. There was another component to the industrial park. A lot of young mothers would have found it difficult to give care to the children when they went to work. There was built a daycare center up there adjacent to where they work. So you need not stay home to babysit. Come to work, and just across the street, you can leave your children for how much? $15 a week.
yes. And
When I say that too, I guess $15 a week for child care. Are you crazy?
yes, and all that because of the persons who back then were looking at the interests for the nation.
Let's take this first caller. Call a good day. Talk too much. Give it a chance to get back in. Just give us a call, and we'll take that before we go to the next break. So please, try again, please. Okay, are you back there, caller? Good morning. You're live on Voices.
Yeah, good morning, gentlemen. How are you guys doing?
Good morning. Good,
we're
sir.
wonderful. Good hearing from you.
Yeah. Thanks for the information from the guest there. You know what I mean? A lot of history between them two islands, man.
Definitely.
Yeah, I wanted to say something of like kind of weird, you know. It's all in light of like development. You know, I was thinking about like, you know what I'm saying, trying to do things to get the economy going and stuff like that. What I want to say is that between St. Kitts and Nevis, we need more inter-island travel.
I don't think you've been home recently. There are lots. Almost 18 hours a day. Almost 18 hours a day inter-island travel. There are a number of small ferry services, whether from downtown or from the southeastern peninsula, they're going around the clock.
Okay, so here's the joke now. With that said, right, we want to pull the region in, so we could incorporate the region with that inter-island travel. But think about surface travel, right, between the islands, right. What I want to see happen is more development, infrastructure-wise. The road that Mr. Simmons built on the peninsula, right? The peninsula and St. Kitts needs to get more development, and it needs more infrastructure done on that side of St. Kitts, right? And then therefore, and on the Nevis end, the south side of Nevis needs to get developed. You know, infrastructure needs to be put into place, you know, on the south side of Nevis. And this is where I'm going with this, right? Let me look at travel, right? Regional and international travel, right? On the St. Kitts end, we have the international airport, right?
Yep.
This is the idea that I have. The idea that I have is increase the travel across both islands to incorporate the international and the regional travel. The jet planes coming in from into St. Kitts, right? And what I should really do, we need cooperation between the two airport and seaport authorities between both islands. We want all the travel coming in from North America comes into St. Kitts and the international scene with the jet planes down. But all the regional down island travel, we need to get the Nevis airport developed so Nevis can have traffic
direct
going down the Caribbean. And then what would happen is that we want the inter-island travel increased across both islands. So if a man from Sandy Point wants to go to Barbados or go down the island, right, he doesn't necessarily always have to fly out of RLB. What he can do, take a cab up to the same ferry service to talk about, the water taxis them going across the Nevis, right? And then he can shuttle to the airport in Nevis and take a plane out of Nevis down to the island, down the islands. And you know what I mean? the North American and Puerto Rico and the VI travel goes out.
The thing is that creates an
Jet plane.
inconvenience to have to take a ferry to a certain point to get to another point when you have that easy access of travel. Regional travel has been a challenge. I'll be part of a ceremony, I think on the 2nd of next month, to welcome JetBlue to St. Kitts. They'll be offering direct flights X amount of time weekly. So travel is there. If you're saying that Nevis Airport need to upgrade their capabilities, that's a major investment. The business must reflect that. They must have the business. Air travel to St. Kitts is very difficult and costly. So until that's addressed, it's very costly.
Some things that I'm thinking, right, it might kill the water taxis them and the water taxis down. When we're talking about getting a bridge between St. Kitts and Nevis, what's going to happen with the guys that invested money in the water taxis?
Well, back then, there were not that many water taxis. So the bigger ferries would have been used to take tourists to dive sites.
So those persons who are talking about the bridge, what are the thoughts about the water taxis? The guys that invested money in buying the water taxis.
Get them involved in tourism.
There.
Remember, Carlo, the bridge idea came up long before these water taxi. So it is with the absence of the bridge that we had to get more transport. So the bridge concept was way back in the 1980s, and this is now 2023.
Okay, one more thing I want to say before I go. On the Nevis end, right, the investment that you're talking about at the airport, why was there just wanting one person? I hear the premier on that side talk about going to a partnership with one person who has a private jet that wanted to come in and park his jet in Nevis. Why was they thinking just about one person in terms of investment?
We don't have any particulars in that, so we got to be careful how we comment. So perhaps if we're better informed, we can give an opinion. But as it is, sometimes you hear something or even read something and it's not based on factual, evidence. So we got to be careful in what we put up there. But let me just say one more thing before I go. Please.
The Hurricane Hill, right? But they're talking about that always be blocking the approach to the airport. Why don't they blast down the Hurricane Hill and push all of that rocks and stuff down in the ocean, and then it will shorten up the distance between St. Kitts and Nevis, and then the bridge will have more feasibility. And that's it for now, man.
All right, thank you for your question. We do have to pause now to recognize our sponsors, but Mr. Paul and I are going to give answer to that if we can after we return, okay? Downtown.
If you need protection, you need one who you can trust to secure your investment. You need one who'll do you just. TDC Insurance, you're the one that you can trust. TDC Insurance, you're always safe with us. TDC Insurance is your go-to insurance company for all your insurance needs. We take pride in offering you the best solutions and ensuring our customers are fully satisfied. TDC Insurance, we take good care of you, guaranteeing you peace of mind. You're always safe with us.
Campari, grapefruit, easy for we. Brother, he no hard it, easy for we. Campari, he no cup, easy for we. Brother, he no hard it, easy for we. Add the Campari with the grapefruit soda. That easy, bitter had the pre. Simple mixer, easy 1-3. Campari, grapefruit, that easy for we. If you mix a Campari grapefruit, add 1 part Campari to 3 parts grapefruit soda. Drink at the bar, on the beach, or when a girl reach. Must be 18 years or older to drink. Drink responsibly.
Are you ready for the summer? Need a plan like no other. Stay connected when you're on the go.
Sign up for internet and get 1 month free, plus a chance to pay $0 for the rest of the year. Plus, get a chance to win free data, gas vouchers, $500 cash weekly, grocery vouchers, Fed tickets, and more.
Switch over to Flow.
At 7 minutes, moving up to the midday hour, we go straight to the phone lines. Caller, good day. You're live on Voices.
Good morning, King.
Good morning, sir. How about that?
And to your guests, I am okay.
Good morning.
Just
Good morning.
want to ask you, King, a question.
Yes, sir.
There was not supposed to be a push call last Saturday or Sunday?
Not to my information. The scheduled calls are on the 28th and the 30th of this month.
So there was none for last week. There wasn't none for last weekend.
The one that came last week, it was a smaller vessel that stopped over at Fry's
No,
Bay.
not that one. One after that.
Not based on the schedule that I've seen. Not based on the schedule I've seen. I heard the talk, but there's nothing that came from officially the tourism board or the agents.
Well, I thought it's something like that I heard too. That's why I make sure call you. I spoke to a taxman this morning. He tell me out of that because of this story.
Because of what?
I decided I'm going to call you because I want to believe. I'm sure I heard something was said about that when they were speaking about the first ship that come in.
Mm-hmm. Well, if that was the case.
I hear that, not on the road, on radio.
On
and
radio?
I don't believe I hear wrong.
Well, no ship
You
came,
heard
so
the talk, right?
I heard the talk, but I'm old enough not to just take up everything because there are people who repeat what have heard without checking the facts.
Okay.
I'm glad you called.
Yeah, man.
Anyway, the
That's
first
okay.
tent will be down at Spratnet on the 5th of next month. The first tent. Just to let you know, you're Calypsonian.
Okay.
Right? So tell your friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. And tell him that you heard it from me. You heard it from me, not somebody on the road, okay?
Okay, cool.
All right, Mr. Pell, we got about 6 minutes to take it up to the midday newscast, so it's all yours.
Okay, sir. And we realize that...
By the way, the lines are open, so if you want to interact with Mr. Pell, the lines are now open. Go right ahead.
So you realize during that...
Got a call?
Oh, it's
Okay. It was just
Yeah. And then we realized that during that period of time, there was so much activities that was happening to modernize our system, so to speak. Or to bring it up to speed, some person might have disagreement when I say modernize our system.
We take this caller, call your live on voices.
Hey, good morning, guys.
Mr.
Morning,
Brown, I heard a Calypso with your name in it, so. Anyway, that's a different story.
Well, they always have me name in Calypso.
Is that what
Remember, you got me name in Calypso too, you know?
Yep.
Yes, they always have me name in Calypso.
You're a good person.
Well, hear what is happening here. Although we had the Small Business Association started under the People's Action Movement, Socrates, I was looking forward to say you participated in the Small Business Calypso show too.
I think I won it.
Remember they used to sponsor the Small Business Calypso show at that time?
Yes, I think I won the one in No Town. That was the last one. Yeah.
And Ayatollah had one too.
So
also, when the government changed in 1980, Labour had a policy that if you get pregnant in school, that was it for you. You was thrown out like a empty milk can by the roadside.
Yep.
And when Pam win in 1980, Constance Mitchum went to Parliament and changed that and said, no, when the young ladies get pregnant in school, why the fathers must continue the schooling? Because sometimes the fathers were school children too.
Valid point.
And the young lady must leave. And she put it into law and make it mandatory that whether you is a father or a mother, you go back to school and finish your education. And let me tell you, thousands and thousands and thousands.
Not so much, Carl Brown. Not so much, Carl Brown. Not so much.
Benefited from it. A lot of it don't hit the media. A lot of it didn't hit the media because we didn't got social media at that time.
That is true.
Right? So a lot of people, they got pregnant and it was hidden. And, you know,
Carl
some
Brown.
of them went by the wayside.
Carl
and
Brown.
went back to school.
Carl
and they are
Brown.
big people now.
Carl Brown,
Hey.
we are just about 50,000+ people as a population. So it can't be thousands and thousands and thousands. Right?
Thousands benefited from it. You hear? From the Honorable Constance Mitchum law.
Yes, well.
Right? And they are all over the world today in big jobs, making our nation proud. All over in St. Kitts, making our
That's the education
nation
Mr.
proud.
Pell alluded to.
Right? The other thing is, Look up until today, the school meal program, the self-books and all of them still active. And one of the things we forgot, down in the mall, which Port Zante was started under the People's Action Movement, the development of Port Zante just before the People's Action Movement lost government, there was a plan down there. We used to go down in the mall and watch it. He used to be right there in the center.
How we call it?
And he had in a plan for vendors. You see the knockbout vendors I get now?
Yep.
The People's Action Movement had the vendors area where there was to be for life.
That's
and
what
Port Zante could not be moved and never would be moved.
That is because the People's Action Movement have the development of persons at heart and business development for the person, because they understand by what having businesses, especially small businesses, is all about. You have to have the economy turning. By the economy turning, that means the country develop, and that is why during that time, our country was dubbed one of the most. Mr. Socrates, what it was dubbed again?
And not only that, the Sandy Point High School was belong to the People's Action Movement.
Number one in economic development throughout the Caribbean and Latin America.
Right.
We were ranked
those years, those 15 years.
And
number one in economic development throughout the Caribbean and Latin America. And we almost out of time, so Calbum, on the other end, Mr. I think you had about 30 seconds before it's now 12 o'clock.
That's what I want to say. And for that is actually philosophy of the People's Action Movement, about economic development and advancement of the people and the country of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Okay. On that note, we now break to present the WIN FM's midday newscast.
You found the sound. 98.9. Win FM.
We now bring you the headline news. The headline news is brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, KDP Enterprises, The Grange, and Caribbean.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet International, your worldwide cargo transportation solution. We provide all the services you need to ship your goods anywhere in the world, whether your shipment is fresh, frozen, large or small, alive or hazardous. You can count on Amerijet to deliver it safe and sound. Amerijet International, by land, sea or air, we get it there. For more information, visit us online at www.amerijet.com or call us at KDP Enterprises at 466-9595.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodations to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020. Fax 466-8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
With over a century of perfection behind the Mackeson name, a smooth blend with perfect balance and richness, it's no wonder Mackeson Triple Stout has a legacy of perfection. Enjoy the world over. Introducing our new look with the same great taste. Mackeson. All hail the king.
Please drink responsibly.
When it comes to the important things in life, your health, your education, your choice of a life partner, and of course your insurance provider, Only the best will do. Caribbean Alliance Insurance is the only insurance company in the Eastern Caribbean with an A excellent rating. We have a robust 3-tier reinsurance strategy that protects our policyholders from multiple catastrophes, even if they occur in quick succession. We spread our risks over 18 territories, ensuring minimal impact to individual territories when a disaster strikes. We provide an excellent claims experience. Claim settlement is usually between 24 to 48 hours. Our A excellent rating means that you are more secure with us. Contact us for motor, property, marine, public liability, employer's liability, and other policies. Delisle Walwyn, people you can trust. Local agent for Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Tomorrow secured.
With the Win FM headline news, I am Yulana Weeks. Locally, St. Kitts Nevis delegation visits Canada. St. Kitts Diabetes Association shares its aim to increase awareness about diabetes to the entire populace. The details and more straight ahead. The Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, Dr. Terence Drew, was the first foreign diplomat to meet Honorable Greg Fergus, the newly elected Speaker of the House of Commons in Canada. Prime Minister Drew said his meeting with Honorable Fergus focused on areas of opportunity for closer bilateral cooperation between the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis and Canada, and also opportunities for increased investments in renewable energy and food and water security, key areas of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Additionally, Prime Minister Drew presented Speaker Fergus with a framed photograph drawn by Professor Tau Batiste. The St. Kitts Nevis delegation to Canada also include Foreign Affairs Minister Dr. Denzel L. Douglas, Ambassador to CARICOM Larry Vaughan, and Charge d'Affaires ad interim in the High Commission of St. Kitts and Nevis, Eustace Theo Wallace. The delegation's visit to Canada also includes their participation in the Canada-CARICOM Summit. Prime Minister Drew met briefly Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau before the opening session of the summit. Public Relations Officer of the St. Kitts Diabetes Association, Dr. Reginald O'Loughlin, describes the association as a support group that individuals and families can turn to for information in relation to diabetes prevention, treatment, and management. Approximately 3,000 people in St. Kitts have been diagnosed as diabetics, children included. Some children were identified to have borderline diabetes, thus making it even more important to engage the entire population about the disease. The St. Kitts Diabetes Association intends to utilize the Parent Teachers Association platforms and public meetings to discuss concerns relating to diabetes.
One of the things we have on our plan of action is to meet with some PTAs, some Parent Teachers Association, and through that we can hopefully press the point home amongst those parents who will attend. What we have been doing from day one since I've been in the executive is every quarter we've organized public area meeting where we invite persons to come and listen to diabetes and some aspect of problems associated with diabetes, whether it be diabetes and the eating, diabetes and the foot, the eye, the kidney, and we usually would have it in a public place. Unfortunately, COVID-19 did put a little halt to that. We used to have it at the Old Girls School on Victoria Road on a Sunday afternoon, specifically chosen because most people don't work on a Sunday. And the idea was to invite all persons, not just diabetics alone, not just parents of or family members of, but persons generally interested in hearing and knowing.
According to O'Loughlin, the quarterly meetings have resumed, but there are challenges in relation to funding and venue to host quarterly meetings. O'Loughlin is hopeful that members of the public will assist the Diabetes Association in any way possible. Meanwhile, Dr. O'Loughlin called on the press to use their television, radio, and social media platforms during prime time to help to raise awareness about diabetes. Regionally,
I'm Gordon Mosley reporting, maintaining that no agreement was reached with the government on the $214 million in unjustified claims flagged by IHS Markit in the conduct of that Stabroek Block cost recovery audit. The president of ExxonMobil Guyana, Alistair Rutledge, today said the government, through Guyana Revenue Authority, has re-engaged a UK-based audit firm to assess the supporting documents that have been provided by the ExxonMobil company. It was the opposition that recently stated that during a meeting in September, ExxonMobil indicated that the government had agreed to reduce the $214 million in unjustified claims to just over $3 million. But the ExxonMobil Guyana president, Alistair Rutledge, while acknowledging the meeting with the opposition, denied that the company indicated that it reached any agreement with the government.
I did describe the process to the opposition, but I did not say that we had reached final agreement that was authorized by either the GRA or the ministry.
And maintaining that there is no dispute, but rather a request for additional documentation based on queries made by the audit company, Mr. Rutledge said the company has documentation to support the majority of the queries. According to him, those supporting documents cover more than 90% of the claims flagged in the audit report. However, he said sourcing the documents is no easy task, as the audit dates back to more than 20 years, and the change in government and technical personnel.
Not only does it cover a period that goes back more than 20 years ago, but also that the process of that audit kicked off several years ago now, in fact under a different administration, when we still had the Department of Energy, and then there was the hiatus period, and then into this government and administration who have now been overseeing the latter stages of the process.
Mr. Rutledge explained that in keeping with the production sharing agreement, ExxonMobil communicated directly with the Ministry of Natural Resources on the cost recovery audit. However, it was not until recently that the company was informed that a GRA is the authority on the matter.
Under the agreement, the ministry is officially the contact point, but as the government has made clear, they want the GRA to be the point of contact, and so that's who we're now working with.
The Exxon boss of the Guyana Revenue Authority has since requested additional documents and has also re-engaged the IHS Markit audit company based on the correspondence received from the government last week. Mr. Rutledge said as the query process continues, the ExxonMobil company will continue to defend the entire $1.678 billion in costs that it intends to recover for exploration works done between 1999 and 2017. He also said while it is normal to have queries during an audit, the delay in the audit spanning more than 20 years has made it difficult to source the documents.
Our view is that we have these are valid costs. It's a question of finding the documentation, but remember this goes back more than 20 years. We're talking about archived documents and finding the right documents to support specific questions. But we had found, when the last count, we were down at below $10 million, where we clearly had in our mind, the documentation supported the cost.
And given the challenges being experienced in the ongoing audit, the oil company's president said it is important to have audits done in a timely manner in keeping with the regular audit cycle.
Almost a year ago, the Minister of Public Utilities warned that landfills across the country are close to capacity.
The revelation once again cast a light on this country's recycling program, and it's a topic that officials from TNT are now engaging with Japanese experts on in a bid to find solutions.
Ryan Bechu, who is in Japan on a news assignment, spoke to officials there who have been working with this country.
Osaki, a small town on the seaside city of Kagoshima, Japan, known for its agriculture and master-making vinegar. The contents of these barrels have been fermenting for 5 years. It is a town not unfamiliar to TNT. After all, it hosted this country's Olympic team during the Tokyo Games. These days, TNT is looking towards Osaki for answers on how to deal with its waste management.
This is one of Japan's many junkyards, a landfill in Osaki town. It hardly looks like a landfill, though, at least not the ones that we're accustomed to in Trinidad and Tobago. It's almost neat, tidy, compact, very well put together. But it's also a model that Trinidad and Tobago is now in discussions with officials in Osaki town to adopt.
At the end of June, APEC hosted officials from the Ministry of Public Utilities and SWIMCOL to aid this country with its landfills. TNT's 3 major landfills are buckling under the pressure of a country doing minimal recycling. This is where Ruru Nagakaki says separating organic trash and recycling others can add years of life to a landfill. But she warns TNT isn't the only country with this problem.
まだ解決できる道はあると思うので、皆さん一緒にやっていきたいなって思います。
Yes, so not only Trinidad and Tobago, internationally speaking, there really are waste issues, and that's something really quite immediately they are facing. But in Trinidad and Tobago and other places, there are many places that haven't, taken up or dealt with this recycling, taken up this recycling measure. So once waste are separated and once they get started with it, there still are opportunities.
15 minutes away is a sewer recycling center where waste separation takes place. Plastic, glass, metals, every bit of trash is separated and recycled. And officials here feel TNT must do the same.
It is very important for a country like Trinidad and Tobago, where the land is very limited, and also the population is, I guess, it's growing right now in Trinidad and Tobago. So those landfills can be filled up very quickly.
TNT's landfills are alien to many of its citizens, but with space quickly running out, this could become a common concern soon. Ryan Bechu, CNC3 News, Osaki Town.
Internationally,
thousands of people are rallying outside the U.S. and Israeli embassies in the Jordanian capital, Amman. It's a show of support to Palestine following Israel's airstrike on Al-Ahli Baptist Hospital in Gaza on Tuesday. The Jordanian government has declared 3 days of mourning. Several pro-Palestinian marches are expected across the country. Islamic parties have called for a general strike. Osama bin Javed joins us from Amman. What's the latest on your end, Osama?
Well, as you've been seeing these scenes where the number of protesters have been swelling in the last few hours. We were there last night at the Israeli embassy as well. There was a large presence of the police who were trying to push back these protesters, trying to prevent them from entering the Israeli embassy compound. It is similar scenes there. There's a smaller protest at the U.S. embassy as well. But this is where the flashpoint is here in the Jordanian capital, Amman, where people want to go and vent their anger at the Israeli embassy. We spoke to a former Jordanian MP as well last night. She told us that the presence of the Israeli embassy is hurtful and, in her words, shameful for Jordanians and Palestinians living here, because they do not want to talk to Israel while there are, in their words, massacres being committed on Palestinian soil. Earlier as well, saying that this summit, which was supposed to happen today in Amman between the Americans, the Jordanians, the Palestinians and the Egyptians, is no longer going to take place here because what he calls massacres that are being committed by the Israeli government. So as you said, this is not just a protest in one spot. There are sporadic protests that are happening across Jordan, a country which is home to more than 2 million Palestinian refugees.
Okay, the meeting between Arab leaders and Joe Biden has been canceled, but surely there must be some behind-the-scenes diplomatic activity, right? What's going on that front?
Well, we're hearing that there is still lines of communication which are open amongst all of these sides, but there's been very categoric rejection by both the Jordanians and the Egyptians that they do not want the displacement of another mass migration from the Palestinians from their lands into either Jordan or Egyptian territories. And that is something where they are clear that they do not want to open their borders for these people to be displaced, because, as I said, there are more than 2 million Palestinian refugees still here who do not have the right to return to Israel. So this is going to be one of the most difficult things, that getting these parties to agree on whether if they want to take some Palestinians from the other side or to allow in aid. And that's where the two sides seem to be stuck on, where the Arab governments have been asking for a cessation of hostilities to allow in aid to the besieged Gaza Strip, whereas President Joe Biden has been pushing the Arab leaders to use their influence on Palestinians for hostage release and maybe some sort of opening of the borders for people to flee from.
Osama bin Javed reporting from Amman in Jordan. Thank you very much.
After nearly 2 decades of agony and unanswered questions for the family of Natalie Holloway, Joran Vandersloot is reportedly set to accept a plea deal this morning that would finally reveal critical information about how Natalie died.
Is there a surreal quality to all of this now, given how long it's gone on for?
Absolutely. It's been almost 2 decades in the making, and the family has been through so much, and to finally get some kind of semblance of justice.
Vandersloot has been investigated for years in connection to Holloway's disappearance after she vanished on a trip to Aruba in 2005 and was never seen again.
Thank you for your continued support.
Holloway's mother, Beth, and her family attended Vandersloot's arraignment in June after the Dutch national's extradition to the U.S. from Peru, where he was serving a 28-year prison sentence for murdering a college student. Vandersloot is facing extortion and wire fraud charges for allegedly trying to obtain $250,000 from Beth Holloway for information about her daughter's whereabouts. He pleaded not guilty then, but according to the Holloway family's representative, that's about to change, which shocked even their camp.
We anticipated this being a long trial, grueling trial, and I'm glad that the family did not have to go through that process.
So this was unexpected.
It was unexpected.
No government officials have confirmed the plea deal, but according to Holloway family attorney John Q. Kelly, the deal is based on one very big prerequisite.
It was conditioned upon Mr. Vandersloot revealing details of how Natalie died and how her body was disposed of.
Beth Holloway hasn't spoken much publicly about the latest proceedings, though in June did say in a statement, "I am hopeful that some small semblance of justice may finally be realized, even though no act of justice will heal the pain that we've endured." And back in 2015, she told Hoda and Kathy Lee,
I do think that it's still possible that we could find where her remains are.
now, finally, there may be details that provide some form of closure to a heartbroken family.
And there is another element that's important here to note, which is in a filing last night, the judge did say she is considering victim impact statements before sentencing, but only for Beth Holloway and for immediate family members.
That was the WINNFM Headline News. The Headline News was brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, KDP Enterprises, The Grange, and Caribbean.
When it comes to the important things in life, your health, your education, your choice of a life partner, and of course your insurance provider, only the best will do. Caribbean Alliance Insurance is the only insurance company in the Eastern Caribbean with an A excellent rating. We have a robust 3-tier reinsurance strategy that protects our policyholders from multiple catastrophes, even if they occur in quick succession. We spread our risks over 18 territories, ensuring minimal impact to individual territories when a disaster strikes. We provide an excellent claims experience. Claim settlement is usually between 24 to 48 hours. Our A excellent rating means that you are more secure with us. Contact us for motor, property, marine, public liability, employer's liability, and other policies. Dalil Walwyn, people you can trust. Local agent for Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Tomorrow secured.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodations to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020. Fax 466-8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet International, your worldwide cargo transportation solution. We provide all the services you need to ship your goods anywhere in the world, whether your shipment is fresh, frozen, large or small, alive or hazardous. You can count on Amerijet to deliver it safe and sound. Amerijet International, by land, sea or air, we get it there. For more information, visit us online at www.amerijet.com or call us at KDP Enterprises at 466-9595.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
Did you really think cybersecurity was just not for you? Think again. The threat is real and everyone can fall. It's time to get ready and protect your business. At Cable and Wireless Business, we are the top local partner with global cybersecurity expertise. Cybercrime will not stop us. Visit stopthenextattack.com for more.
The presence of a weak trough along with a moist and unstable atmosphere will heighten the chances for shower and thunderstorm activity across the area during the next 24 hours. Today, partly cloudy to cloudy skies with a 70% or high chance of showers and a moderate chance of thunderstorms developing. Tonight, partly cloudy skies with a 40% or moderate chance of brief passing showers. Sunset today will be at 5:47 p.m. Sunrise tomorrow at 6:05 a.m. That's your weather forecast for today, which came to you with the kind compliments of CW Business.
Did you really think cybersecurity was just not for you? Think again. The threat is real and everyone can fall. It's time to get ready and protect your business. At Cable and Wireless Business, we are the top local partner with global cybersecurity expertise. Cybercrime will not stop us. Visit stopthenextattack.com for more.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
Good afternoon to our viewers and listeners. Welcome back to the second half of today's installment, our presentation of Voices. We've had a rather lively discussion during the first half. We have Mr. David Pell. Are you a retired police officer?
Yes, I'm
security general.
Yes, I'm into the private security and as you know, I'm a martial artist.
Martial artist?
Taekwondo, specifically Taekwondo.
Uh-huh.
I was also the president of the St. Kitts Nevis Taekwondo Federation, so it kind of put me in a position to understand politics in general because, you know, that has
the discipline
as well, yes. And also the discipline of just being a good person and being alive, because the philosophy of the Taekwondo is that Taekwondo is a way of life.
You also presented as a candidate during the last election for the People's Action Movement, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And was very probably impressed with you because we did an interview here. And I just love the whole holistic wholesomeness of your approach, and now you're informing and educating. As a result of today's presentation, we've had 2 callers, very important persons that we know, who called to more or less not only correct but to enforce by sharing the information of what they know about the policies of the then government, where as a civil servant, if you were pregnant, say you were a teacher or whatever, and you got pregnant on your job, if you were unmarried, you could not go back to your job. You were dismissed.
Yes.
And that forced migration amongst many other people because you couldn't find employment here. You're more than stigmatized. We were called on this point because we were speaking about it happening to school children. And you were told not only to school children, this policy impacted adults in such a traumatic way. You're a young lady, you're out of wedlock, you got pregnant, whatever job you had was gone.
Yes.
And that changed when the government changed. That was disallowed because people, as one said, in the case of the student, I know Dr. Simmons said, because I heard the broadcast, he said that's when the child need her education most. But the court has said, as it relates to civil servants, the young ladies, is what Dr. Simmons says, that's when they need their job the most.
Mm-hmm. And actually, you realize during back that time as well, we had a lot of migration. And part of the migration issue was not just looking for a job, but because of the policy, the philosophy, if you want to put it, of the government of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, in 1980, when government changed, the then administration, which was led by Dr. Kennedy Simmons and his team, they tried to correct something that was being done wrong, and therefore the process of migration because of government policies
kind of halted.
Right. Even up to today, that would have reduced. People now travel for, okay, I'm back from studies and maybe what I studies is not really what I could get here, so they either stay where they are, come and then go. Try to see if they could start a business, and if not, they will go. But the groundwork for all of this that we're having today, even for, let's say, myself to get into politics and other persons, our present Prime Minister as well, all of that changed because of 1980 when, as simple as it look, as simple as it look, a lot of things would have changed during 1980 when Dr. Simon and his team get into place, even WINNFM being here.
Yes, we didn't have that prevalence of media.
Even WINNFM
we had one.
Here. Yeah.
We had one.
What I'm saying? So what I'm saying is that there's a lot of things that are before us that we take for granted and not realizing is because of those gentlemen and ladies, because there would have been more persons at the back doing a lot of stuff that made that change for us to enjoy a lot of things. Yes, we give thanks for all the other persons who came after, the government after, the one after, and the one that we have now, to continue. Because, St. Kitts and Nevis belongs to all of us. And the development and the advancement of St. Kitts and Nevis belongs to all of us. And yes, we have persons who come to our nation to help build it, but, our nationals, our people, have a duty to build our nation. And by saying that, the foundation that was given in 1980 for the economic boom and for persons to go to work and create business, we have to maintain that. If we don't maintain it, we have an issue.
We also have to be grateful, thankful. Some people think that we don't need to because they need us more than we need them. I'm referring to the Taiwanese. We were the first in the region to establish diplomatic relations with the Republic of Taiwan, and they brought tremendous cultural, financial, and other development to the country. I recall former politicians were saying derisively, we don't want a ching-chang here. Mm-hmm. And when they introduced like sporting equipment, we were told, well, football can't eat. Those remarks. But Taiwan has invested tremendously, worked with us. Now, we're saying that they need a vote at the UN. But the fact is, they have been loyal to us. They have assisted us in so many ways. So many projects they have invested in the country, etc. And that has to be worth something.
And in the philosophy of the martial arts, loyalty is very important and it means something. I must then say as well that Taiwan will always be a friend, and we will always be a friend of Taiwan.
We should be, because others have switched. I'm looking at that.
And to follow up and say something, Mr. Socrates, and to our listening public, is that if we do not continue to work as a people, our economic surrounding is going to change. Because remember, as you mentioned about the Taiwan, remember the Chinese or the Asians were here a long time. Dr. Zhang, you remember him.
Of course.
So they are not here, there is nothing new. The Indians as well, there is nothing new. Remember the
Ramchandani's,
indentured, like I mentioned about the political change and the economic and thing. Remember we had indentured servants, and those are persons who came here. So these are some of the histories that some of our persons may recognize, is that persons from those areas came here to work as well as indentured servants.
Indentured servants, yeah.
During the whole process of when we were trying to get our independence and all these kind of things. And before, must I say, long before that. So you were showing that people coming here is nothing new. And the Indians and the Chinese, if you want to put it this way, is nothing new in coming here. Because it has been happening for a long time. And I must mention as well that 1980 changed a lot of things to put persons to make them industrious, like to work. And that is what it was all about. Because remember, conditions were so bad. I mean, there are persons who are older than me who will know that. And remember, that's one of the reasons why Anguilla was opting to stay. And also was one of the problems between St. Kitts and Nevis back then about not getting sufficient, and things were bad. And the new administration under Dr. Kennedy
You
Simmons...
asked me about this. Anguilla was opting to stay?
Sorry, to leave. My apologies. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Slip of the tongue, as they will say. Thank you very much. Well, if I put it this way, to leave and to stay with the British.
Yes.
Put it this way. So let me correct myself. And so therefore, we had economic situation very bad. And now we have an opportunity where our people can create their own business, start their own business, and we are more educated now than then. But to be wiser and to be smarter, it might be a question. Because the reason why I said that, Mr.
Education have not to do with common sense?
The reason why I said that, Mr. Socrates, is that here you had a situation where back in the early 60s and so on coming up.
So 60s to the 80s.
Things were a bit bad. And therefore, you would expect the government to, give, because also not only that, but because of the racial thing that they had. Now we have our black people, so to speak, in power. Okay, let us look for us. But all of that would have changed. We get so accustomed to it. Even if you want to look at Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks, we had our people running our country during those times. You understand where I'm coming from? So you expect what they were facing, we were not facing. And still, things were not as good. 1980 came, and we had a position where a group of people now saying, hey, we want us to build us. Encourage business to grow, business to do, business that. Be industrious, work. A lot of people were working. Like I said, I could recall, because I'm from the east side of the country, the best place in the world to live, which is Lodge Project.
Isn't that Sandy Point?
Sandy Point is the best after Lodge.
Okay, no problem.
No problem. And you find out that I could speak for that even, because when we go into school, you seldom see anybody lineman. Everybody going to work. And in that case, I don't know if you remember the case with we had a murder in Lodge. I think that was one of the hanging periods we had. Okay? It's because nobody was in the village. Everybody got to work, and this gentleman took the time. I don't want to call no names and so forth, but that was a sad time in our community. And it was because I was going to high school, and it was everybody gone out. And this young lady was getting ready to go to work, and that's when this thing happened. Somebody might call in to remember, but I personally don't want to call it, because I know the person, and both persons, so don't really want to get into that. But only to show you what I'm talking about person being industrious. And today we know we have a situation where we had all of that put to us, and persons are now depending on handouts.
Let me let the folks know that the lines are open if you want to call and make a contribution, or engage Mr. Pell, or correct us on anything that you think that we may misrepresent. But the lines are open: 6620989, 7620989, and if at home, you can try 466. The people at culture is listening, and he want to get his finger on on this. But yes, your information serves to re-educate or inform a lot of folks who are not really aware. Is very important. The two calls we had during the news break was very important. These are men who've lived it and spoke about it and thought they would well, at least engage us to encourage. And as one caller said, you're doing a very good job.
Yes, thank you very much, caller, and thank you very much for person who may not calling us yet and think that I'm doing it so as well. And I want you to know that is that an opportunity was created for us to, you know what? That opportunity is created for us to build wealth for ourselves and our children and our children's children. You cannot get wealth by me giving you something. You have to create and work. An honest day's work for an honest day's pay.
It's got to be sustainable.
Right. An honest day's work for an honest day's pay. And so I am happy that the opportunity was created because you have your own business. Win FM here, I have mine, or a lot of other persons have their business. Who knows what would have happened if such change didn't come? Nobody
knows. It creates
knows.
a bigger tax base that helps the economy. So it's important. The more there are times when administration boasts about how many new businesses are registered every year.
And you know what, Mr. Socrates, or if you want to call it king, right? You don't mind. You know, a lot of big countries boast about how many jobs they're going to create and how many business they're going to create, expand. That is what should be the aim of every government of St. Kitts and Nevis. I must then proudly say, because, you know, the evidence are there, have the information to prove during the 1980s, there was this big boom. And the evidence, the history is there to prove what St. Kitts and Nevis was called.
Do you have any data on what the unemployment rate was around that time?
I think I might have something here.
It's currently around 4%. If my information is correct, it's about 4 to 4.5%. But back then, I know there was so much employment. You mentioned the construction boom. The whole place transformed.
No, not with the. I don't have the figures with the employment, but with the GDP.
Even with the moving out, we used to call the customs building down there where the Pelican Mall is. When they took down the barrier, the fence, and that was unveiled to the public, you want to know what happened in St. Kitts?
Yes.
Transformative.
Completely.
Just a whole facelift on Bastille. Even some new buildings on 4th Street or whatever, they had to be faced with stone to retain the architectural integrity of Bastille.
Because, see here, role of government. And this is from the website. I went into the website. I just type in economic development advancement of St. Kitts and Nevis. And I gave from 18
a whole profile
to come right back up.
Wow.
So they give me a bunch of information. So I type that in. And what they're saying here is that the government role was to actually encourage business growth, business development. Even though it was a difficult thing for persons to actually understand, because, you know, we were mostly sugar-based, and to see what these other things are going to come in. I'm not prepared for it. It's just like when the sugar industry had closed. Remember that? In when the government in the day, which is Dr. Denzel Douglas, they had to retrain persons and get them there. It's the same thing. Right? Because a lot of people were still working in the sugar industry.
And they were not properly prepared for the change for tourism until why.
Right.
They were led to believe that the sugar industry would not be closing.
But you know, the thing...
So when it was forced into reality to close it, people had to rush to get trained in crash courses to go into other job positions.
But look here, as soon as I mentioned that, I just remember, but back in 1980, that transformation was put in place. But it just that, and it's mentioned here, way back in 1980, this is what the website, the information is saying. Persons were still not prepared to change, to diversify. Because, you know, the sugar industry used to pay a lot of money, you know. I know teachers used to finish teaching and go to work in the sugar industry.
Really?
Yeah, because at that day, they get paid per tonnage. So even though the sugar industry might have been going down, it still could have, you still could have made money from it, because teachers, when they finish teach, they go in the school, who go to spread charts, who go to cut cane.
Was there a void because we imported workers from St. Lucia, Haiti,
the Dominican Republic?
Yes.
What happened after a while? Education stepped in, and some person didn't want to go into, and there was so much work. But I could recall per week people who used to cut cane. When some person's getting maybe $400, $500 a week, people who cutting cane used to go home $1,000, $2,000 a week.
So civil servants went to cut cane too.
That's what I'm talking about. And I show there are some persons who used to be in the sugar industry could attest to this because, and that is how the building of boom increased. Because remember, people were cutting cane during the 1970s. But I'm just trying to show you something here so our people could understand. People were cutting cane during the 1970s and so forth. But in the 1980s, like I said, everything was booming because remember, every time they now started to get paid per tonnage. And a 1 ton of cane value X amount. And if you cut 5 tons,
you had your gangs and your team to work together.
Right. And you find out the persons who used to transport the sugar cane to the sliding and the person who used to do, as we call it, the grab. And so forth, down on the sliding using the crane. You used to get more because they're doing more per ton.
So because we had to meet certain quotas in terms of exporting, even though some of our people were no longer cutting cane, we had to import to fill that void in order to meet the targets to the external markets.
Yes, I think what happened after a while, some persons were not wanting to cut the cane because of maybe information. Because remember one time too, remember when they had the harvesters, remember those machines?
That they brought in, yeah.
And those machines used to cut tons of cane. So those guys who used to use the machines,
by tonnage,
$2,000 per week, they used to get a lot of money. And those days, the booming of housing. Remember the housing boom?
Of course.
Right. And so we have to remember those days. But, as things goes on, and now those things, so it could have been during the time. But
in the latter stage, the sugar industry was costing the country some $31 million per annum.
And that is where the importation of persons, because remember they had to pay a bonus before the persons come in. So if you getting paid before, but if you go and you look into
back up there, you had to pay bonuses before they came in?
From my memory, because I used to escort, I used to be in the police force, so we used to do these things and they used to mention them. So sometimes you used to have some, because when they bring them in, they have to put them up. They have to do this, they have to do that.
Migrant workers, like going to Canada?
Right. So you find out that will cost you. But if you have the persons here who are doing it, it costs you nothing. All you have to do is when they work, you pay them.
But
So
we
that's-
train a generation to tell them not to think about the sugarcane field. Go to school, secure your education, and better yourself.
That's it.
Because the stigma and the most minimal wages were then paid. So when you say that civil servants would go and cut because...
Yes, I hope someone who used to teach and who used to do that will call in. And someone who used to work in the sugar industry could call in and let us know how much they used to get home per week. Because I know for a fact, because I had friends and I have a cousin who used to work in, and these guys used to get home $1,000 a week.
Okay. One of the things that Dr. Simmons said, or is on record of having said, that he will never go to the IMF because it's a slippery slope from which you can never recover. How do we get in the hands of the IMF?
Well, I have information here. Let me make sure I have it straight and get it to you. Okay. It says here, and this is the overall thing, just to give us some information, and this is like coming on the ending part of the same information in the document.
Okay.
The overall balance, and this was in 1985, the overall balance payment for 1985 was surplus US $1.7 million, a capital account surplus of $8.5 million US, composed predominantly of private sector investment in tourism and the communication, but also bolstered by public sector loans, more than offset the current account deficit. So you realize from this information here, the surplus might seem small now, but the expenditure what we used to do there might have been different. So you find out with all that economic thing, I can't recall how often, if ever at all, we've been to the World Bank. I can't recall that. And I don't have the information because, like I said, didn't come. I just try to give our history. So I hope someone who have that information will actually call, because I'm just giving the layout of the economic history and the political history of our country. Those fine points, I I could always, get them and come back again. But I just wanted to get us to see the standing that we were. But I cannot recall.
We progressed.
Right. And just through this information, I'm not seeing our information about going to the World Bank. So maybe things were so good that we were not there because I'm not seeing it here. And this is information, you have something in your source, U.S. Library of Congress. You understand where I'm coming from? So I'm not making up anything here, so the information is there. But I would assume, and from the whole thing, I hope somebody will call who would have the information.
662-0989, 466-0989, 762-0989 gets you in on the conversation today. We'd like to engage Mr. Pell. I think it's one of the more informative programs we've had, interviews in terms of the history of our country, St. Kitts Nevis, politically, and now we're giving us the economic profile that accompanied that particular period of our development.
Yes, because our young persons and even our older persons, even persons my age and just under, we have to understand that what we have now took process. And just like a house, if you have a good foundation, you'll have a strong, sturdy house.
Okay.
Just like, go ahead, sir.
I was going to ask you in terms of the youth development programs. Let's take this caller. Caller, good day. You're live on Voices.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Very interesting discussion.
Good afternoon, sir.
Well, we want to hear from you. I know the voice, so I'm listening.
I just want to add my little piece because I spent a lot of time talking about 1980 and the change of life for people who think it's in 1980, I think.
Yes, that's correct.
Right. Something that you all forgot. In 1979, I think we had about, 5 cruise ships, nothing more than 5. By the time Powell got into the Ministry of Tourism, the cruise ships started to grow from, I think, 6 or 7 in 1980, and then it mounted up dramatically from 1981 onward. That's one. The government at the time, Simmons in the the new administration in the new election for 1980 had promised the sugar workers a sizable increase in salary. I can't remember what it was, but it was
25%.
20, was that how?
25%.
25%.
I think that they were being offered 10 and they had 15, so it would have been 25 in totality.
Right. So when they came in, they gave them the extra 15%.
The whole goat instead of goat water.
All kind of things. So along with that, too, shortly after that, they abolished personal income tax. So people had a lot more money in their pockets. So life changed dramatically for the people in St. Kitts and Nevis. After that, we know what happened.
What happened?
We enjoyed life for a while, and then it turned a little sour. We over-enjoyed ourselves.
That happens.
But it was really good in the 1980s, coming up into the 1990s. And then the floor dropped out of the building. Along with that, too, people were allowed to buy land because land was scarce for a short time in the 1980s until the Simmons administration, the government at the time, paid for the land. Remember, there was a dispute.
$22 million.
Yes.
Deposited.
Right.
Yes.
I mean, that was basically, based on the cost of land today, that was a giveaway.
Yes.
The land had been acquired in 1975, I think.
For $11 million. The then premier
That's right.
deposited $11 million at the bank for them. The court ruled against it because the people protested.
Exactly.
He decided he wasn't paying for it.
And as a result, people could not own the land. You could not get up and build houses on any of the estate land or any resort if the government wanted to sell people that land, because it really didn't belong to the government. So it was when the government changed in 1980 that people were then, and having paid for the land, $22 million, which is basically a giveaway as far as I'm concerned, people then allowed to build houses on the land and that sort of thing.
Of ownership.
And life changed dramatically for St. Kitts, not for Nevis. Nevis is a different situation. But it changed dramatically. Estate and persons' living in little shanty places and in little, what you call it, village houses and that kind of thing. We're able to expand and get some land to do their own agriculture.
The construction boom,
you
you mentioned, Mr. Pell, the construction boom.
Yep.
That's right. That helped to encourage the same construction boom that you all spoke about earlier. But anyhow, you guys going good. I'm listening and learning.
Thank you very much, sir. And you just taught me something as well, too. You know, you keep learning every time.
Yeah. The question I was about to ask you, is your name Scully, Mr. Sergeant? Okay. The question I was going to ask you is, what do you think would... Okay, let's call her. Could they call you live on Voices? Hello, caller. Thanks for trying. You're live on Voices.
Yes, speaking. Good afternoon, John.
Welcome to the program.
And good afternoon to the gentleman that are here.
Good afternoon, sir.
You know the voice?
Not quite. I'm trying to figure it out. If you keep talking.
This is Sugar. Anyway, the gentleman there, he incarnated out some kind of money there that Cane Cutters used to make. He's from here?
Yes, I'll let you speak to him yourself. You probably know him.
And he used to work in the sugar industry?
No.
Because nobody used to work on $1,000. If a Cane Cutter get $1,000, the manager give it to the head cutter, and the $1,000 share up about 6 or 7 man.
You work in the industry, right?
Huh?
You're speaking from experience of working, or having worked in the industry.
Born on the estate.
Okay.
Okay.
What? The head cutter used to share the money in the yard, you know.
Carlo, can I just say something? I had a cousin who used to work, and I saw his slip. That's what I'm saying. If I didn't see it, I wouldn't have been talking about it, but I saw it. So that's why I mentioned it.
I think I hear you mentioned something up to $5,000.
5,000? No,
that
wasn't mentioned.
Okay then. Okay. But them kind of money there, sometimes when a Cane Cutter gang come first, you have to owe me $30-something.
Remember, so depends on how many persons used to be in the gang. You remember that, right? Remember, depending on how many persons in the gang, the money have to share up.
A gang used to have 6 to 7 man.
Huh? Well,
a gang used to have 6 to 7 man.
Okay. Which I know because like I said, I had a cousin who used to work inside there.
He's from the Lodge area.
I'm from the East area.
Okay.
So I know when I speak, it might sound strange, but eyesight I never used to believe. And people, but you could recall people used to teach and go into the sugar industry to weed cane and those kind of things in the afternoon?
Yeah, because I used to cut cane, weed farm, and still spread trash.
Right. And it's because those persons realized what was happening. So, but I could only speak from what I experienced. Like I said, it depends on the amount of persons in the gang. So these persons get that amount of money because there was not maybe that much persons in the gang. No, for real. I used to cite myself.
Grab used to get something, maybe $200 or something over there.
The grab for a whole week?
Yeah. But that's good money, you know.
I usually get like $30 for the week?
Yeah, sometimes I get $30-something a week, and I flush with money.
What period is that, sir? What period?
What time frame you talking about, sir? Are you there, sir?
Because
we may have lost our caller.
We
apologize for that. Caller, you're live on Voices. Good day, caller. You're live on Voices.
Good day.
Welcome to the program.
Yeah. That caller there, what he's saying is false. All the way false. Yeah, man.
We're listening
I
to
got Cane too.
Mm-hmm.
I was head cutter number 4 gang, Paris State. If the gang make, for example, if we could say 10 tons of cane, the 10 tons of cane is that share up between the gang.
Yep.
Yes.
And ain't a gang leader. It's the state managed by the government them. Everybody getting the envelope with their money. Ain't no gang leader sharing
the money and the plan. Okay.
The gang leader put in how everybody walk. If you walk 2 years and we lag you, we put you in 4K, you're only going for say 5 tons then. You ain't going for the 10 tons.
Okay.
But man make money, man make $1,000, man make money. What you talking about is rubbish.
Is that
You know what you talking about. I cut cane, I weed, I dig grass, I fix road. I work in the sugar industry. I was head cutter number 4 gang. Why you saying it so? But you $1,000 syrup for all the man, them man get by you mad.
Thank you very much, Carlo. Thank you very much, Carlo.
Which is said you work on? We will ask before we got the question answered. He mentioned the estate, but I didn't quite get it clearly. But you have validation.
Yes, because I know the estate, the sugar industry used to pay. But like you said, during the education boom, after a while they used to discourage persons from going into. Because like education, try to be a doctor, try to be this. And that is why even the agriculture industry itself, I mean, my good friend Troy Flanders loved the industry, the farming. And like I said, I had people in farming and they've, Okay.
Caller, you're live on Voices. Thanks for your call. Go to caller, you're live on Voices. Hello. Are you there? Okay, go ahead.
Okay. And
we have a call. Go to caller, you're live on Voices. Okay.
And you find out, even in the same 1980s, like I said, different agriculture diversification, but there was a period of time because of the education boom, even the farming as well got slowed down because now doctor, lawyers, you understand where I'm coming from. So the farming now went down.
We have a call online?
Yes, Socrates.
Good afternoon. Welcome.
Before never get trouble, you know.
Okay. We're trying to listen, so thanks for your patience.
Yeah, okay. You see, first the cane cutters them used to share the money and then afterward they go to envelope. The manager used to do it. But
So what time frame were you referring to? Is it 60s, 70s, 80s? What time frame?
Well, 60s or something. Yeah.
Okay.
And what? I one day television used to be in the whole village. And the manager used to have it. Everybody got money when they go people in. Black and white TV.
Back in the 60s, man. Okay.
Restaurant. Only one man had a television.
Yeah, okay.
Mr. Grant.
That's in Keon?
Yeah?
Was that in Keon?
No, West Farm here.
West Farm.
Mr. Grant, come on in West Farm here now.
Okay.
Mr. Warner and Mr. Penjon, Mr. Griffith, and the manager now.
So you're going way back to the 60s then?
Yeah, here me born. So I could tell you.
Okay. We're talking the 80s, $1,000. You're going back to 30, back to 60s?
No, them time them stop. Them time them stop working instead.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, thanks. Okay. You work in the airport then?
Yeah. You remember them 2 mountains were level up there?
Yes.
Night and day, we walk up there.
And what was your salary weekly working at Higgs and Hill?
Sometimes we used to get, it by the hour, you know. We used to get 55 cents an hour.
55 cents per hour?
Yeah.
I'm not a mathematician. How much is that, Mr. Pell, weekly?
55 an hour, 8 hours.
8 hours by 40?
440.
We're working out your salary for you.
Yeah, I remember all these things, you know.
Well, I'm glad your memory still, you know.
Some used to get 75 cents an hour, can't do your skill.
Okay. Back in the day.
Anyway.
Very much.
Let me end it here and let somebody else come in and talk with me.
Much appreciated. Much appreciated.
I'm talking from way back.
Apparently. Yes, sir.
I want to bring bad yet.
Yeah, but I came in 55. Okay. I came in 55, so I've been around, but not in the cane field itself.
All right, what? I see cattle hall here, you know. Cattle little hall here, you know.
Are you talking about...
Long time, man.
I'll tell you about it.
My speech was about when we had the tractors and those kind of things.
And the loaders,
the harvesters and so on.
You you talk about when things come good, man.
Understandably so.
All right, sir.
Okay, sir.
That's your contribution. Do appreciate that. We got perspective there.
Yes.
Right? One of the questions I've been trying to ask you is what comes to mind when you reflect on Mission Atlanta? You recall that? What was said, what it meant, and how it mushroomed, the results of that?
I was trying to get more information on it, but I couldn't get what I wanted to come and talk in a command way on it.
It spoke to the vision that Dr. Simmons had for our young athletes. Targeting, I think it was the Olympics that was supposed to be held in Atlanta in about 2 or 3 years' time.
Okay.
And that produced the likes of Kim Collins and some of our young athletes having the vision, having that the support. Again, the Taiwanese played a major role in assisting with the playing field, the sporting complexes to help the young people, because if you couldn't channel the energies into something positive, we know what the alternative was.
Yes. What I could remember, though, is that even back then, in the 1980s, come back up, sport was a very important part of schooling, community, and everything. I don't know if you remember, when it comes to football and cricket, every village seems as if they used to have their own
Sandy Point get knocked out somehow. We know the reasons or the rationales or what we're told about why Sandy Point no longer has a football team or certain things. So,
But to put that in perspective to our audience, even back then, it was not just economics, so to speak. Now you bring that up. But even sports, because if you have to look at what happened to sports now, sports before 1980 and during 1980, you'll see a big difference. And then, because the police were heavily involved with every single sport, and that is why the police and the community go hand in hand, and crime rate was actually, look at it today and look at it then. Complete difference. So you see how much things was changed during that period of time and how it brought us. To even now, we have a fallout of these things to see where we are now. Hopefully by reflecting to those periods could now chart us on a course for the future where we could have, once again, number one, economically, and even in sports. Because right now, look at our football, look at you get where I'm coming from, especially community-wise. All these things are down. Look at the emphasis on agriculture. All these things are down. We have a few persons that are trying to bring them back up. Even in schools, we remember we had the agricultural program from primary school. Those are challenges.
We're going to pause once again to give credit to sponsors, and we'll be right back.
Here are your Horsford's Value Mart IGA specials, running October 5th through the 18th. The more you shop, the more you save. For the month of October, get double points on dairy and grocery non-food items. Now, our Value Club Blue Tag specials. Act 2 popcorn, $6.99. Essential Everyday Barbecue sauces, $5.99. Sunny Delight Smooth and Tangy, $5.99. Essential Everyday Shredded and Chunk Cheeses, $7.99. Arm & Hammer Detergent, $19.99. Gain Ultra Liquid Dish Detergent, $8.49. And now our very low weekly value deals. Starfish Chunk Light Tuna in Water, $3.75. Essential Everyday Quick and Old-Fashioned Oats, $8.99. Quaker Granola Bars, $12.99. Colgate Toothpaste, $7.99. Dole Fruit Bowls, $14.99. IGA Essential Everyday Cereals, $9.99. Shop smart, shop Value Mart, and get double points for more rewards today. Continuamos en octubre con los puntos dobles y más recompensas. Sea listo y haga sus compras aquí en Value Mart.
Riddle this, riddle that. Horseman's Furniture and Appliances and Ashley Furniture Home Store is again giving away hundreds of thousands of dollars in cashback for free groceries with every hire purchase. Will be given back this coupon season. Happening now. Hundreds of thousands of dollars in cashback coupons to all our hire purchase customers this coupon season. Starting now until December 2023. You get absolutely free groceries with every hire purchase at our Horseman's Furniture and Appliances Appliances stores on St. Kitts Nevis and our Ashley Home Store on St. Kitts. So riddle this. Where can you get quality furniture and appliances at great prices with a flexible FlexPlay plan and with absolutely free groceries with every hire purchase? Riddle that. Cashback at Horseman Furniture and Appliances on St. Kitts Nevis and our Ashley Home Store on St. Kitts. Riddle this, riddle that. Horseman Furniture and Appliances and Ashley Furniture Home Store is giving you over $250,000 in cashback and a chance to win free groceries for a year. Riddle that cashback. Terms and conditions apply. See store for details.
At 8 minutes past the hour of 1 o'clock, we got about 22 minutes before we close play today. We're still asking the public to Wayne, those who have information to share, like the last two callers. Thank you very much for your contribution, but I know you have a lot more you can contribute. It's good to listen, but it's better to share. So call me back. Let's have a little chat. Mr. Pell.
Yes, sir.
Let's hear what you have to say.
Now, I just want to remind our listening audience and the persons of St. Kitts and Nevis.
And viewing, because you're live.
Oh, yes, I'm viewing.
You know what I mean?
Is that not only we had an economic boom, and we just mentioned about the sport boom, but even our legal system or justice system was welcome now, because there was a change in everything. You know, to how persons even access the judicial system and everything to seek redress and so forth. But one thing I want to touch on here, Mr. Moderator, Mr. King,
all of that,
and our listening audience, is that export of what was grown here, manufactured here, and so forth, started to go out. So there was income coming in, so foreign exchange. Our persons, whether it's police and nurses, whatever, training. Our students, education levels start to increase. And what happened? Our persons, upon graduation, or some persons didn't even go to university, but the amount of subject that they acquired at school were able to go into certain position of work. You remember once upon a time, all you had to do is get X amount of O levels and A levels and so forth, and you get a big job.
Reading, writing, arithmetic.
But
that
of
was
course. And all, look, you see, and all these were the change that came into being. And you realize now that we were now an independent nation, proud nation of St. Kitts and Nevis. And therefore, no longer that someone would have sent from somewhere to come to do this. However, over the period of time, certain things would have changed. But our people were prominently positioned and were able to do what they were qualified to do and even trained to do. You mentioned about sports. Look at what we have achieved globally in sports. I could recall, you know, how many persons from my school, KR, were on the, okay.
Good to call you live on Voices. We may have just missed a call. Please, if you can, try the line one more time. We would love to hear what you have to say.
Also, we had so much funds in our economy that we started to now find different areas to import stuff from. So we have now what we have, variety of goods and even services. Because what happened? The economy, people were working, and if people have money, the...
Caller, you're live on Voices.
Good afternoon.
Well, the economists and statisticians and I want to...
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Sister Henry. You're live?
Lady Henry.
I sat down here, I was listening, so let Mr. Fell talk.
All right. Thank you very much.
And then I dozed off. I just woke up here. I thought it gone 1 o'clock, long time.
No, we're still here with you.
But it's interesting, but a lot of what he said is true. But we need to bear in mind that a lot of the changes happened because we became an independent country.
Yes.
We then signed up to a lot of the agencies, the UN, UNIFEM, so that a lot of the things available, they began to access.
Yes.
I mean, the same thing, there are a lot of rights and privileges that women have. Happened because we joined the UNIFEM, which is the women's destiny. We had some action before. Kariwa, if you remember Kariwa.
I recall that.
And Liebert
Kariwa
was the president of the Caribbean Women's thing. And then when they switched to Kariwa, you got more assistance, more programs. The thing about gender, remember the gender issue.
Gender affairs. It's called Women's Affairs firstly.
Yeah, I work on it. With all the men like Socrates, I'm saying what woman want.
Right now, women dominate all the key jobs.
They dominate, they qualify for them, please.
Yeah, but you still dominate. You qualify, and I respect them for that.
Watch me, don't blame women for what? For the failure of men.
I ain't gonna argue with you.
You're not dominating. We were hindered before. We were hindered because even in the private sector, you had to lobby for women to get into managerial position. Some of it they actually held, but were not appointed to.
Okay.
You know? And education, there was a number of education reforms in the 80s. The preschool thing was reformed. Leonie James, God bless her, and Vanta Walters. The whole thing about egalitarianism came in because they introduced uniforms, you know, so that the poorest are poor. The child is
equal playing field.
Deprived.
Level playing field, yeah.
Hello?
A level playing field.
Yes. You know, and the curriculum also changed more than once. I think that was sponsored either by World Bank or something. But the lady came from, I think it was Guyana. A number of projects were done. If he had gone to the archives, they used to publish a thing called the Year in Review.
The Year in Review.
Bell?
I recall that.
Yes, yes.
These documents outlaid the activities of government for the year, which would be a good thing if the present government does it. Because sometimes you forget what is happening, eh?
Yes.
Okay.
And like when they travel, what they got, what we signed to, just the state of the economy as a whole, not just work.
Yes.
And it spoke about Mr. Southwell and the industrial site. The first company was the St. Gases.
Yes, I remember that.
That was the first company brought here.
It's up there now? Same place? Location?
It wasn't brought here, it was a local, Judenburg. I think my name,
John?
Curtis Mattis, came under Mr. Bradshaw. I think so. If I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
They were up at Birdrock.
I recall the location.
Eh?
I recall the location of Curtis Mattis.
Yes, yes.
And for those who don't know, because there's a whole young generation who have no idea what you're talking about. So if you can explain to them what it was.
Oh, man, we used to make TV, but we couldn't watch them.
Yes, I remember.
They were made for export.
Yeah. They used to actually assemble the whole TV here, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And there was some outcry because of the concern about the sugar industry workers. And this is where men start to say women getting out of hand. Because just as in other cases, the majority of the workforce were women who did the assembling, and maybe the men did the final put together. You couldn't even buy one here.
No, it was illegal to have one.
Were becoming more and more independent, and a lot of training was done. Now, people wouldn't believe today. I remember civil servants got a 50% increase in salary. A 50% 1 year, you know. And I think they got a 40 and a 25.
What year was that?
For the first time in life, people began to work for like 300 because I was working down at Trinity. $110 a month.
A month. Got to pay
You could
transportation.
imagine, so you have no, and then income tax used to be 35% up to 55%.
Talk to us,
So you
speak to
abolish
us.
the income tax.
Mhm.
You double the income, almost. So that caused the economy to move on. And I always talk about having a development plan. A lot of the agencies began to give ideas, make inputs, World Bank, IMF, say, look, this is what you could do. We had a lot of surveys, labor force survey, agriculture survey, and all of these led to
Policy
some
changes.
progress.
Okay.
So a lot was done, But as I said, each government did their share. Some do more than some, you understand?
Understandably so.
And all built on a foundation.
Yep.
So that's why we need to let our people know, because rich young person will tell you $110 a month. Some people got less than that.
Yeah, but also during that time, the $110 a month. Remember how much for house
I was
rent?
teaching down Trinity.
House rent was like what, $5 and so on. You remember that?
Huh?
Remember house rent? Rent was very low as well.
Depends on where.
Them young people said if they wouldn't get up for the minimum wage, you think they're going to get up for 110?
But back
We were
then,
working the maths.
remember the 110 was typical. Remember house rent was what, like $5 and all these kind of things a week and so on.
Oh well.
Transportation, lunch on the road, etc. I know a lady who, she's passed recently, she used to work for, I think it was $11 a week. Or 15.
My mother worked for $6.
Coming from Sandy Point daily to go up on the industrial site to work and having to buy lunch and all the different things.
I believe deliberately.
Deliberately so.
Yeah, I mean, there really was no difference between the wages in the cane field to the wages at Curtis Mattis, Because there was always the fear that
if you pay them more,
abandon the field,
Yes.
But Mrs. Henry, let me ask a question. Because you see, what I want to put in perspective as well is that.
You have to speak a little louder because I don't want to turn off my volume.
Okay, what I want to say is, during that time, we still have to realize is that it's our local persons who are in charge of the government, so then they should have a interest in making life a bit better. But then, it took a group of persons.
Vision, man, the word is vision.
A vision, okay. It took a group of persons who think it best to, hey, I think we're going to, it's about time that we elevate our people. And
not only that, too. Now, we have a constituted one. Who call it you, Holy?
Yep.
Yeah, like still, right?
Of course, he's up in Birdwalk.
Yeah, I know. He came in as an economist. And so he was able, to take an economic point of view. Now he later became, he could listen to me now because he know me. Very arrogant.
From Sandy
But
Point.
under him, to his credit, he modernized the civil service. I remember we got computers at the planning unit. We were one of the first set. In 1986, at time more pencil and paper and pen and paper. Modernize it. Computer in schools, Sandy Point, because you're from Sandy Point.
Sandy
Point was the first school to get computers. People don't know that.
And my father from Sandy Point, so.
And as a training, I went to university in 82. Now, prior to that, I could say it and they could hear. People were handpicked to go to university. The 1-1 and the 1-1. In some family, 2 and 3, But after it, because we became independent, a lot of the countries, Canada, began to give scholarships.
Okay.
Yes. I think when I went, must say about 17 of us were up there. Now 1-1 and now 1-1. So it started because we became independent.
An independent nation, okay.
There were more countries that donated stuff,
We were then able to create diplomatic relations with those countries one-on-one, which we couldn't do prior, being just a colony.
Some of them wasn't diplomatic. A lot of them came to the UN and the World Bank.
We got some assistance from Canada before we got independent, just assistance. In terms of you need to establish diplomatic relations.
The school meals came to the World Food Program, which is a UN thing. Studies were done for them. The ILO came in this, so in terms of the wages, the ILO was involved. You know, so that a lot of the agencies, the international agencies, of course, demanded and assisted in getting this standard of living up. Health improved, you know.
Yes.
There was a massive improvement in health, especially the school meals, as much as people talk about it. At least you were assured that your children would get something to eat. When you're working in the sugar industry and crop done, well, food almost done. You know? So by becoming independent, some people don't know, by becoming independent, the standard of living began to climb out of the dust. You know, and so just being independent. And don't talk about Nevis. Nevis is both, so they got land. Sim Daniel.
Well, Nevis was
elevated his people, gave the land ownership, start the bank, start sixth form. Sixth form used to be only for the privileged and on the hand, the one and the one.
Okay.
You know, so the education at a higher level, access to overseas training improved. You know, and so they set the foundation. They work. Now let me say it so we don't get criticized. They built on the foundation that was laid.
Okay.
And elevated the building. And so the governments that came after, and the government presently, they're working on a foundation that was laid. And as Mr. Pell said, everybody deserves
the
recognition.
Mm-hmm.
I find in this country we're very biased. I always contend that Mr. Southwell deserves a lot more credit than he got. Mr. France, I heard somebody said the other day, Mr. France was never a minister. That's a lie. Mr. France was the Minister of Education and Social Services. How many people know that? Do you know that?
I know that, but he was always on the radar, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, people are making it sound like, oh, well, he was only in the union. Not at all. He was a minister.
Well, that's good information.
He was to give up his position to bring in Brian because Mr. Blatty was trying to get more graduates, you know, Blatty, Limo, and all of that. But he made a contribution even before they got ministerial position in the papers, and so he had been lobbying. He had been writing articles because some people make it say, oh, well, the man couldn't read. That's not true. He was educated, but he was not, I don't know if he stammered or what. But he was not a lot of...
We're talking about Mr. France, right?
Yeah, I have read long articles in the Spokesman, in the archives and in the other papers.
That he authored.
People like, oh, he couldn't this, and he just said, when a speech is short and proper, is a good one. The man said a lot more than that. And even this education, reformation, and transformation, he deserved the credit because if Mr.
Charles Mills?
Bryan came in, Mr. Bryan was elected in 66.
Mm-hmm.
And in 67 months after, you had the secondary school combining.
The comprehensive...
It was not his idea.
It was Charles Mills.
Actually, the credit goes to Mr. Mills.
Charles Mills. He was not given the credit.
Charles E. Mills. Because he went to the UK to do study in education.
Mm-hmm.
And he came back. And even prior to that, because as I said, I went to the archives, the British government had been advising them to enlarge secondary education. I have read it. They only had a small thing in the grammar school and the girls' high school. They were advised time and time again to make secondary education more accessible to more children. And Mr. Mills, when he came back, I don't know if he did a paper or whatever on it, and he gave it to the ministry.
That is why he didn't get the credit. That is why Mr. Bryant, being the minister, got that credit for. But was Charles Mills.
When the truth came out, when Mr. Mills was nominated to be named, for the school in Sandy Point to be named after
That is
him.
correct.
And the Sandy Pointers protested, said, number one, I'm Sandy Point.
They didn't have the information.
Yes.
They did not have the information. We did not have the information.
Said, look, he deserves it because he's the one who caused us to have secondary education.
That is correct.
You're not even the higher level education in the high school.
But before we go, because we got to go shortly, I interviewed his wife about 18 months ago, if not 2 years ago. She was then 93, 94, and she gave me that
God bless her.
information firsthand. Right? But we have about 3 minutes before we wrap up, and I want to thank you for your contribution. But give Mr. Pell. Huh?
She has a book?
No, I interviewed her. And she gave me all the information.
Yeah, she taught at the Teachers College too.
Yes, she
when
did.
I was there.
She told me she went to Antigua. She used to walk from Sandy Point to some school, and and a lot of information she shared with me. So I want to thank her for that. Her son was there.
Yeah. So have you recorded it or what?
I do. Yes, I have it.
You can have it and then.
It's on the page, the story of Sandy Point.
Oh.
You can get the audio. I can get you audio copy of it.
Yeah, so I must credit Dr.
Mr. Pell?
Simmons' thing, right?
Uh-huh.
But you see, pride has come before fall, I must say it. You gotta watch it.
Okay, we gotta go, Sister Henry, because we have the time.
God bless all from Rotterdam to Dr. Drew.
Yes,
all right,
most certainly, Mr. Pelly. So yours, you got a couple of minutes. We'll need to wrap things up. And interesting conversation, but we actually all the time. We have to do it again.
Thank you very much for having me again, and I just thank everyone that I was able, and give God thanks for giving me the opportunity to come and share and remind us and to enlighten those who have know about this information of what we have here. And we have our national hero alive. Let us touch him, as you say. But he has a book. So if persons are interested to get more thing, you could buy a copy from Dr. Simmons and you get more. So because I'm just here to bring the history, educational, politically, economically, if you want to say sport-wise, development-wise and advancement-wise of St. Kitts and Nevis. And the final print, the fine print of things, you can go and get persons to come. But I just want to remind us and enlighten our young persons where we came from and where we started the advancement in economic and development boom to where we are today. And this should let us know where we want to go for the future. So thank you very much. God bless us all.
To God be the glory. I want to thank you once again, because there are many persons who would have spoken to me about the last program would have wished to hear more. So we'll see in going future if we can do it like a third installment, and whatever we label it. You saw the interest that was generated by the many callers who were home listening, but they had to call and add, so we do appreciate that. I want to say to all the listeners and viewers, until Friday morning, God's willing, peace, love, and a much better tomorrow. We hear about a system, some system approaching, but we don't have any control over that. We stay focused, we stay vigilant, and we count our blessings. Peace.
This is a public service announcement.
Brace yourselves for the ultimate shopping extravaganza that you've been waiting for. Get ready to be blown away, because double cashback coupon season has officially landed at Horsford's Furniture and Appliances and Ashley Furniture Home Store. Can you feel the excitement in the air? It's that magical time of year when Horsford's paves the way to your dreams by giving away millions in free groceries with every Flex Pay Higher purchase.
But wait, there's more to this phenomenal offer.
Hold on to your seats, because this is your chance to win an entire year of free groceries through the exhilarating Double Cashback Season Double Cashback Promotion. Wait, did I mention it's Double Cashback Coupon Season at Horsford's Furniture and Appliances and Ashley Furniture Home Store? Don't delay. Come in today before it's too late and snatch up your Double Cashback coupons for absolutely free groceries. Terms and conditions apply. See store for details.